Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I really hope you all are doing fine still, and really hopeful that Allah will soon forgive us and will offer us again the brighter days. Well, as long as we are alive, as long as we are healthy and fit, life goes on. We should work hard and for so that we can bring better days. So here, as a mentor of project management, I'm going to discuss something about the new chapter, project risk management. Okay, so project risk and management. I know it's been a long gap, so let me remind you what is project. Project is a set of interrelated activities that has a starting point and a finishing point, and after completing it, we are submitting it to our client or the end user. For example, creating a building, making a movie, theme park, things like that. So, what is a project risk? Project risk or any kind of risk. Remember that risk means probability of happening something. That means there is a 50-50 chance. Something that can happen, that cannot also happen. So, if you are in that kind of confusing situation that to complete my project, there could be some natural disaster, there could be some man made disaster, there could be some machine breakdown, then there could be some financial crisis. These are risks because this is something that can happen, that cannot also happen. So is it clear to you? Again, let me make it clear that project risk is something, the probability or the uncertainty of happening something. Well, the difference between risk and issue is that when you know that something is definitely going to happen, that is issue, and when you know that something may happen, may not happen, that is risk. So project risk is like that. Topic number 2. Now let's talk about types of project risk. Well, types of project risk. We all know the triple constraints. That means cost or budget, timeline or deadline, or performance parameters, or quality or design. These three things all together create constraint for project manager, because a project manager will always have to consider these three things to complete his or her project. So the types of risk also comes from this kind of constraints. So first or second or third major risk is like that, the shortage of money or the financial part. Second will be like any change in the scope, and third is the like deadline, the shrinkage of deadline or elaboration of deadline or any kind of change in the deadline. These are the major project risk. Well, apart from that, there are other kinds of risk also. Those are, number one is like strategic or government's risk. What kind of risk is that? Strategic risk is something that means you take a strategy to complete your project, and after completing a few days with that strategy, next week or third week or fourth week, you find that this strategy is not good anymore. That means you plan something and you get something. This is a risk in your project, and this is under the category of strategic risk. Number two risk is like that, operational risk. Operational risk is what? Operational risk is like the poor functions. For example, your distribution, your drivers, your employees, they are not being able to complete the project in the way you designed to. For example, the planning was perfect, but when it was time to make pillars for a bridge, to make some classrooms for a school project, and your operational people and your staff member, they are not doing it well. And at first there was no like problem, they said that okay, we can do it, but whenever it is the time to complete the project, you find that they are not being able to complete that perfectly. So operational risk is like that. Third one is market risk. For example, sometimes there is new opportunity coming suddenly, then your project will be like not that much important. Sometimes there will be threat from another competitor, they will do the same thing in a much better way, then your project will be like then your project will lose the limelight. Then third kind of risk is that natural disaster, that you know that for example the outbreak of coronavirus has stopped all the project in the world, not only in Bangladesh. So nobody could actually predict it. Whenever it was first in China, people thought that okay, it's the Chinese crisis, it will not affect us, but now it has affected everyone in this world. So this is the natural disaster, this is again one kind of risk. Then the last type of risk, there are many kinds of risk. The major last kind of risk is like that, any new addition of stakeholder. Whenever in the top management or authority or in the project management committee, if the in between the project manager is changed or top manager is changed or sponsor is changed or some change happens in the top authority, then there is a new direction, then there is a new process, then there is a new thought, and it again creates risk in this project. So clear? So strategic of governance risk, then there is a market risk, then there is natural disaster risk, then there is new additional risk, and then there is the for example the natural disaster operational risk also. So these are the main risk in a project. Topic number 3, or let's talk about third topic of this project risk management, that how to manage this risk, what to do so that the effect of this risk will be minimized. So here I am going to talk about the risk management strategies. Number 1 will be avoiding it. How to avoid it? Like, if you know, well, the first point, let me make it very clear to you that project risk management or assessing the risk, it should be done before you start the project. Whenever you are in the planning stage, whenever you are planning about your project, whenever you are teaming up, whenever you are collecting materials, at that time you need to list down that what are the probable risk in your project, what may happen. Then how to solve it or how to deal with the risk. You have to categorize risk, that something like major risk then minor risk, and people classify it in a different way also, qualitative risk, quantitative risk. Well, the risk management strategies are: number 1, avoiding it. How to avoid it? If you know that certain things may happen, try to add more resources in your project, try to keep more people in your project, and make it very clear with everyone that in this project something like this may happen, and we will also have to work together, and we will have to work harder, and we will have to work additionally to tackle this thing. That means taking precautionary measures before it happens. That is called avoiding it, that you are not getting afraid, you are all prepared to avoid this risk. Second one is to transfer it. Second risk management strategy is transferring the risk. Now what is that? Transferring the risk is like that, it's a smart technique where what happens, the project manager talks with the client and other related parties and convinces the sponsor or the client that together it will be able, I will be able to solve it, but for me being alone a project manager I cannot solve it. So I need some more materials, or I need some more parties through which by sharing the risk we can mitigate it or we can solve the risk. So by transferring it, it means that you are transferring the liability or you are transferring the risk to another party, or you are dealing with the risk jointly. Okay, so let me make it again clear to you that by transferring strategy we mean that you and there will be another person, or the client or the sponsor themselves, they can work with you to minimize the effect of the risk. Number 3 is that mitigating the risk or facing it. Like, if it happens, it will happen, and then how to minimize the effect, that is your concept, that is your concern. Mitigation of this risk, that means you are not going to avoid it, you are not going to transfer it, you are ready on your mind that if it happens, then how you are going to minimize the effect of the risk. It happens for the minor risk actually. For example, changes in human resources or some minor changes in the project plan, such kind of risk, something you take really proactive actions from beginning of the project, and there are some minimal risks like a little bit of changes, they are happening every time, so you do not take precautionary measures from very early. You say yourself that okay, let me face it, when it will happen I will face it. So that kind of strategy is mitigation strategy. And the last strategy is accepting. Well, I know these are the risks, this may happen, and I accept it, and I'm ready to bear the loss. If it happens, then I'll face it, and I'm not afraid of it. So avoiding it, where you will be proactive from very early. Number 2, transferring it, you are sharing the responsibility with someone else. And number 3, mitigation, that okay, you are going to minimize the effect of the risk. And accepting means that okay, you know it will happen, and I'm ready to face the loss. Okay, so this is how you can deal with the risk. So this is all about project risk, type of risk, and risk management strategies. Now what to do with this, I'm going to explain it later, that what is your requirement from this. Okay, take care everyone, and be safe, and please stay at home.